Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to the day 2 of Azure Fundamentals and Azure 900 workshop. So can anyone just confirm whether my voice is audible and my screen is visible?
Yes, my both your audio is also fine and video is visible.
Okay, thank you. So before we get started, I would like to say a few things about this event that we are conducting. Uh, so this is a Microsoft Launch Student Ambassador and GDSC-ITER collab event where we are going to teach you Azure Fundamentals and make you prepared for the Azure 900 certification exam. So today is the day 2 of this event, and these are the speakers. So I'm the organizer, Bravish Ghosh, Microsoft Launch Student Ambassador and Microsoft Certified. And we have our guest speakers, Akash Das and Amisha Jaiswal, who are also Microsoft certified, and they are also the chapter coordinators of GDSC-ITER. So welcome to the complete workshop of Azure Fundamentals, day 2. So regarding this event, if you have any kind of issues or doubts, you can always mail me at this email ID and I shall reach you as soon as possible. So a little bit introduction about myself. So I'm a junior in computer science engineering branch at ITER Shiksha Anusandhan University. I'm the GDSC lead and I'm also an MLSA. I'm also Microsoft certified Azure Fundamentals and MLH mentor and also a GitLab certified associate and a GAN specialized. So some FAQs about this cloud study jam that we are conducting. So why is GDSC ITR in collaboration with MLSA organizing this event? Microsoft certified members from our club are going to share their knowledge and experiences to help other students to pass this Azure 900 certification. But in no way we are experts. We are also students like you all, but we are going to try our best to share our knowledge and help you in learning the syllabus for this exam. So what are the benefits of this certification? That is Azure 900. So Azure 900 is the foundational level certification for Azure Cloud Services. Passing this exam proves your foundational level knowledge in Azure Cloud Services. Certification and knowledge in Azure may provide better job opportunities in future. This certification may also increase the chances for earning more in your current job. So what are the benefits of this event? Microsoft launched Student Ambassador, and that is myself. I'm going to provide discount coupons and certificate of participation to all the attendees who attend all 3 sessions and fill the feedback form that we are going to provide at the end of the session each day. And this is a free event organized voluntarily by the official members of GDSC-ITR who have passed the Azure 900 exam. This is a live session, so attendees can feel free to ask their doubts in the chat box. Well, currently we have turned it off, but we'll be turning it on when the time comes. And we shall try our best to answer all your queries. Attending all 3 sessions will make you Azure ready and confident to appear for the Azure 900 certification exam. So this is the most important part, that you have to become Azure ready and confident for the exam to pass it. And we will be helping you in that. This is the syllabus of this examination. And yesterday we had covered the basic cloud concepts, that is cloud computing concepts and the core Azure services. And today we are going to cover the next 2 parts, that is the core solutions and management tools on Azure and the general security network security features. So I would like to welcome our guest speakers, Akash Das and Amisha Jaiswal, so that they can take over this session from now. So Akash Das, it's over to you now.
Thank you. Is it visible, guys? Anyone please confirm?
Yes, it's visible.
Hello, everyone. I'm Akash. I'm a pre-final year student from ITR. So yesterday we all saw and we learned about the core Azure concepts and the core Azure services. Let me give you a quick recap. So first we understood what cloud computing is and then what Azure has to offer to us. Then we understood what public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud, which is a combination of both the public and private clouds, like those models. And then we saw the three main services that the infrastructure as a service and platform as a service and software as a service offerings, and also what serverless computing is. Also, we need a subscription to use Azure, and then under that we need to create Azure resource groups. And then we saw about the regions, availability zones, and region pairs, which help us to which help actually Azure to provide a 24/7 service that can be provided with a negligible downtime, so that the clients or the customers of their services can enjoy like a seamless experience. Then we saw various Azure compute services like creating virtual machines, web apps, etc. And then the networking services, storage services, and the database and analytics services. Today, we will be looking at the core solutions and management tools on Azure, which will like improvise the experience on Azure. Like if we're creating a virtual machine or like any web app, then adding this management and the solution tools to it will just improvise our experience only. So in Azure core solutions, we are having several things like for IoT, Internet of Things devices, we have IoT Hub and IoT Central. It provides data and then AI features like Azure Machine Learning, Cognitive Services, and Bot Services. Serverless computing solutions that include Azure Functions and Logic Apps. DevOps solution like we have Azure DevOps, GitHub, GitHub Actions, DevTest Labs, and we can use for creating these things and managing these things. We can use Azure Portal, mobile app, PowerShell, CL. I will look all these things in upcoming slides. Then finally, to analyze and to know what are the things going on with my virtual machines. Are they secure? Are they perfectly working or not? We can use Azure Advisor, Monitor, and Service feature services. So first, let's see the Azure's IoT services for our application. So what IoT is? IoT bridges the physical and digital worlds by enabling devices with sensors and an internet communication to communicate with cloud-based systems via the internet. So IoT enables devices to gather and then rely information for data analysis. Smart devices are equipped with sensors that collect data. So under IoT services, we are having majorly three things like Azure IoT Hub, IoT Central, and Azure Sphere. So let's see what Azure IoT Hub is. IoT Hub is a managed service that's hosted in the cloud and acts as a central message hub for bidirectional communication between your IoT application and the devices it manages. Azure IoT Hub is to build IoT solutions with reliable and secure communications between millions of IoT devices and a cloud-hosted solution backend. You can connect virtually any device to your IoT Hub. I'll be coming back to it, but let's first see what Azure IoT Central has to offer. IoT Central builds on the top of the IoT Hub, okay, by adding a dashboard that allows you to connect, monitor, and manage your IoT devices. The visual user interface makes it easy to quickly connect new devices and watch as they begin sending telemetry or error messages. It is a fully managed global IoT software as a service solution that makes it easy to manage IoT assets at scale. So first, let's know that Azure IoT Hub, the hub is a platform as a service. Okay. So with Azure Hub, we can get data from the sensors, which are all around the world, which are present, which can be present anywhere. We can get data from the sensor and we can send instructions to the sensor or remote devices too. So it is a bidirectional communication. We can receive the data and we can also send the instructions to the sensor or the remote devices. But the thing is, sending this data needs to be managed by us. We need to manage everything. We need to manage the analysis we do with the data which we receive. But in Central, IoT Central, which is a software as a service, offering by Azure, we have things already set up there. So we just need to select things and start using them. We don't need to worry about like the analysis. They will be providing us the analysis services. We just need to use them, and we do not have to manage everything. Like we do not need any developer to do the data science things. We will be using the pre-built features of the IoT Central. So to attempt questions and exams, so you need to look for the key terms. Okay, if you look at the key terms only in the question, if it is asking only for the communication, is the communication like receiving data is the only factor for us, then we can use IoT Hub. But when the question is something related to using those services and using a dashboard over it, if we do not have developers, okay, if someone is not developer who is just not comfortable with the CLI things, so they can use dashboard directly. They can use a visual interface. They can select the things like we use in our Windows. We create folders like that. Can we do anything like that in Windows? Like that we can use in IoT Central. Now then comes Azure Sphere. So when security is the main focus in the question, like if it is asking for any security things, then your no-brainer solution will be IoT Sphere. So as IoT Sphere is Azure IoT Sphere creates an end-to-end highly secure IoT solution for customers that encompasses everything from the hardware and operating system on the device to secure method of sending messages from the devices to the messenger. Azure Sphere has built-in communication and security features for internet-connected devices. So I'll tell you what that means is when Azure. So first you see this is a microcontroller unit of the Azure Sphere, which is built with the Azure IoT Hub or Central. We can use it with both of them. So what it does is it has attached sensors which is responsible for processing the operating system and signals from those sensors. Okay. And here Azure Sphere Security Service, which also known as AS3, comes to picture. What AS3 does is it makes sure that the device has not been maliciously compromised or tampered or something like that. Like it will make sure it is actually what it does. It makes a authenticated connection. We'll learn in the future like what authenticated, authorized, and all these things are. So it only allows authenticated persons to communicate. If someone else has tried to communicate or maliciously tampered the thing, then we will know that yeah, it is now no more secure. So we'll be in future slides, we'll see where to use these services. So next, we'll see the next slide. So this is the major part. Okay, you will also find this in this analyze the decision criteria very briefly in the modules provided by the Microsoft. Those modules are very great. So first, when you see a question that and you know that yeah, it is related to IoT, you'll obviously know that yeah, the question is asking about IoT solutions. So you will first thing what your brain needs to call back is these things. What will be your decision criteria? Okay. So first question will be: is it critical to ensure that a device is not compromised? Like it is obviously asking about security. So let me give you an example. Like let's say you have a washing machine that uses IoT sensors, or let's take another example. Like you have, if you're these days we are using sensors to prevent the water flow when the tank get fills up. Okay, so you think when it is actually collecting a data, the sensor is collecting a data and sending it to a software that when it knows that yeah, the water is almost at the top. So we can also maintain those data in a log, okay. But you need to understand is what is the need of security system over there? Like we can't do anything or we cannot extract anything valuable from that information. So you see, security is not a factor over here. But in case we are saying we are using IoT service or sensor in an ATM machine, okay, then the security comes to action. For any information or data that's ATM in the IoT, the sensor that is used in the ATM machine that may be valuable. So we need security over there. So IoT Sphere will be your solution. Next thing is, do I need a dashboard for reporting and management? Okay, so I already said that. For if you need a dashboard means you need to use IoT Central. Okay, it is a software as a service. So you will be getting a dashboard. The user interface and the user experience will be very great. So if you want pre-built customizable user interface with which you can view and control your devices remotely, you will be using IoT Central. And then when to use IoT, but IoT Hub. So when you occasionally want to connect to a remote sensor to receive telemetry and data and push updates, and you don't need any reporting capabilities, or if you want, then you can implement Azure IoT Hub by itself. Your programmers can still create a customized set of management tools. Okay, your programmers can build those for management tools and also build report systems thereby using the IoT Hub RESTful APIs. They can manage that. Okay, you don't need to worry about that. Then you can go for IoT Hub. But you need a dashboard for thing. You can't create any management tool. You need to rely on Azure for it. Then you will be using IoT Central. Then we have the Azure AI services, which for our needs. What is AI? AI is a category of computing that adapts and improves its decision-making ability over time based on its successes and failures. Microsoft Azure provides several AI solutions to choose from, each one depending on the problem you're trying to solve. A goal of AI is to create software system that's able to adapt or learn something on its own without being explicitly programmed to do it. So what are the available products for it? Major products are, or you can say the core products are Azure Machine Learning, Azure Cognitive Services, and Azure Bot Services. Okay. So let's see what Azure Machine Learning is. Azure Machine Learning is a cloud-based app to develop, train, and deploy machine learning models. So what machine learning is? Machine learning is a data science technique that uses the existing data to train a model, test it, and then apply the model to new data to forecast future behaviors, outcomes, and trends. So many of us know that, I guess. So we are having various applications of it. Okay. And so Azure Machine Learning is a platform for making predictions. It consists of tools and services that allow us to connect to data to train and test models to predict a future result. So by using this service, we can create a process that defines how to obtain data, train and evaluate predictive models. We can create pipelines that define where and when to run the model. And finally, we can deploy the best performing algorithm as an API endpoint. So who will use Azure Machine Learning? We will use the Azure Machine Learning when we are having data scientists and they need complete control over the design and training of the algorithm using our own data. The main keyword you'll say is when we're having our own data and we need to build a model which can predict our future data. So let's say I'm having a startup and I don't have much customers. Okay, I'm beginning and I don't have much customers, which means I don't have much data to train to my model. So I need someone who can provide pre-trained models. Okay, if I'm not having data, I need pre-trained models so that I can bring in my live data and get predictions on it. In that situation, Azure Cognitive Services come to picture. So what Azure Cognitive Services? It is quickly enable apps to see, hear, speak, understand, and interpret a user's need. Okay. So Azure Cognitive Service provides the pre-built machine learning models. Okay. So we can use Azure Cognitive Services to solve general problems such as analyzing text for emotional sentiment or analyzing images to recognize objects or faces. You don't need special machine learning or data science knowledge to use these services. The developers access Azure Cognitive Services by APIs and can easily include these features in just few lines of code. Okay. So Azure Cognitive Services provides us with the language services, speech services, vision services, decision services, and so you don't need much focus on the NLP algorithms and computer vision algorithms and all that. We will be getting pre-built things. We just need to use them. It's just like that IoT Hub and IoT Central. It's similar to like that. So the next thing is Azure Bot Service. Azure Bot Service is used to develop intelligent enterprise-grade bots. It is the platform for creating virtual agents that understand and reply to questions. Azure Bot Service is a bit different from machine learning and cognitive service and has very specific use cases. Like we must have already seen bots everywhere. Like any application these days or website these days are using virtual agents to minimize their customer relation things. Like we can minimize the one on customer services who are not available all the time. Like they need to wait for some time so that the call can end and someone after that someone else can join. We don't need that things over here. We'll just create a bot which will be available every time. You just need to ask person, immediately they will reply to you. So something like that. You just need to explore these things more in the if you are going for Azure AI fundamentals. That is one more example. So you will just understand better over there. You just need have basic knowledge on this, that on which situation you need to use which services. You only need to know that. Okay. So let us now see analyze the decision criteria. What decision will make in which scenario? Here we have like 5 scenarios. First, are you building a virtual agent that interfaces with humans via natural language? Okay. So that's a no-brainer. You have to use Azure bot service here when you need to create a virtual agent to interact with humans. So it is very clear. Next thing is, do you need a service that can understand the content and meaning of images, video, or audio, or that can translate text into different languages? So it is also clear that we can use Azure Cognitive Services over here when it comes to general purpose tasks such as performing speech to text or integrating with search or identifying the objects in an image, then Azure Cognitive Solution Services should be our answer. Okay. So then it comes, do you need to predict user behavior, provide users with personalized recommendations in your app? So Azure Cognitive Services here provides a personalized service that watches users' actions within an application. So we can use personalization feature that is to predict their behavior and provide relevant experiences as it identifies the usage patterns. Okay. Here again, we can capture and store users' behavior and create our own custom machine learning solution to those things. But this approach would require much more effort and expense. If we are already getting pre-built things, why to use custom? We'll need to store the things. We'll need to perform custom machine learning. I'll use the algorithms that will be active. Why to use that if you are having a personalized service that is provided by the cognitive Azure Cognitive Services? Okay. So here we can use Azure Cognitive Services. Next comes, will your app predict future outcomes based on private historical data? The keyword here is private historical data. So you have to use Azure machine learning over here when you need to analyze data to predict future outcomes. And when you're working with proprietary data, you'll likely to need and build your custom machine learning model. So here you need to use machine learning. Do you need to build a model by using your own data or perform a task? So similar to here only, we are using our own data to build a model. That is obviously Azure machine learning. We're getting maximum flexibility. Okay. So here's the decision criteria. Now we are having Azure Serverless Technology for applications. So yesterday only Bravish must have explained you what serverless computing is. It is a term used to describe an execution environment that's set up and managed for you. Okay. You never have to worry about an outage. Your code can scale instantly to meet demand, and you pay based on only the actual usage of your code. So let's say you have, if you are having any, we'll be learning this Azure Functions and Azure Logic apps. Like say if you have Azure Function with you, okay, and you are having Azure Function, and it is based on an event. Like if certain event happen in your web app, then only that function will be generated. That function will be out of your web app or virtual machine or anything like that. It will be Azure service. So it is not inside your app or something like that. So it will be, if the event does not occur, I'm trying to say that again. If that event never occurs, like if you click on a button, then the event occurs and the function is called. If you never click that button, the function will never be called, so that you will be never be get charged for that function. Okay. You'll be only be charged for the function if that event occurs and the function is called. So it is a very good thing provided by Azure. That's why it is serverless. It is not depending upon your server. It is completely managed by Azure. In that sense, it means serverless computing. Then it has two things to offer: Azure Functions and Azure Logic Apps. So what Azure Function is? So Azure Function are event-based code running our service and not underlying infrastructure. So what is this? We all do coding, okay, where we write statements which get executed in sequence to perform a task. So in Azure Functions, we can write code in Java, C, Python. Many languages are supported by it. So we write codes and run it in a background service. This particular function is supposed to be triggered when a certain event occurs, as I told. Suppose a new file has been added to the storage account, a message will be generated in background, which we decide, okay, we want that a message will be generated whenever a new file is created or added in a storage account. So in a backend, a event is triggered when it is created. So Azure function is a piece of code which is residing in Azure infrastructure, and when it is here, it has no charge. Okay, because it is going to acquire the infrastructure only when the event occurs. Suppose that the event never occurs, so it is never going to be used. It is as easy as that. Similar to it, we have the Azure Logic Apps. Here too, we don't have any chart similar to that of Azure Functions. The major difference is it is a no-code service. In Azure Functions, we need developers who can write code, but here we create workflows like flow charts consisting of steps, such as the output of one is an input to other like that. We need to create flow charts over here. Let me give you an example. Like suppose I want to send email to my user present in my database. Okay. In Azure Logic Apps, we have got connectors. So what these connectors do is we use these connectors to create business process workflow. Okay, we'll be creating a workflow using our business logic. One connector will fetch data from my SQL server and put it in the logic app. And second connector will send email taking the data from the previous step data. So it is like the output of that step will be the input of this. So to automate and orchestrate tasks integrating services, we can use logic apps. So let us understand that on the first situation we'll be using which app. Okay. Analyzing the decision criteria. So first thing is you need to perform an orchestration across well-known APIs. As we saw, Azure Logic Apps was designed with orchestration in mind only. So we will be using Azure Logic App here. Whenever the question has a keyword containing orchestration, Azure Logic App is the answer. It is also possible to create the same workflow by using Azure Functions, but it might be taking considerable amount of time to research which APIs to call and how to call them. But we have already built in connectors which we can use in Logic App, so we don't need to worry about that. We just need to create a workflow and it will handle everything for us. Okay, so we'll be using Azure Logic App over here. Next thing is, do you need to execute custom algorithms or perform specialized data parsing and data lookups? So with Azure Functions, you can use the full control of a programming language in a compact form. Although here we can use logic apps and can perform logic, but if you have a logic intensive orchestration, intense logic is required, you need to like put much more algorithm features over here. So that requires a complex algorithm and things, then implementing that algorithm will be more accurate. Like with connectors, we can't write much more complex things. We just connect things like straight lines. We use this service, then this data will be this, then orchestration will not work here. Using complex algorithm means you need to write the function. So here we'll be using Azure Functions one. Then the next thing is, do you have existing automated tasks written in an imperative programming language? Like if we are already having Azure function in certain programming language, then we need here Azure Functions. Like we already have our orchestration or business logic expressed in C Sharp, Java, Python, or any programming language. It might be easier to put our code into the body of another Azure function app. But recreating it with Azure Logic App will be very difficult for us because we are already having the piece of code. Why to again start with new Logic App? So we'll be just implementing few things inside of that function. Next thing is, do you prefer a visual declarative workflow or writing code or that is imperative code? Okay. So it comes to your choice only. Okay. It is your choice whether you prefer to work in a declarative environment or an imperative environment. Developers who have expertise in programming language might prefer to think about automation and orchestration using Azure Functions only. Like we can write the codes, then it will be like more fascinating to us working with functions only, writing codes. That's what we do every day. But IT for professionals and the business analysts who don't have much knowledge about programming, they are more into analysis. So they might prefer to work in a more visual or low code or maybe no code environment. So Logic App will be a better option for you. So this was the end of our third module. Then we'll come to Azure Tools to build better solutions. So what are the various Azure tools? These are actually DevOps tools. Okay. DevOps is now becoming a vast thing software industry. So here the software developers and operations professionals start to create working software systems that satisfy the need of the organization. So DevOps is a new approach that helps to align technical teams as they work towards the common goals. Okay, to accomplish these alignments, organizations employ practices and processes that seek to automate the ongoing development and maintenance and deployments of software services. So if you guys don't know about DevOps, then I will say that let's see in a we are having a company. I'm having a developers team and they have been assigned to develop a app. So they developed a app and they use several environments over there. They use their own versions of let's say they are developing some app in Java. Okay, so they are using certain jars and jar files, certain Java version, and after completing that application, they are sending it to the operations team to perform the testing and deploy them. So if the like requirements, like if the operations team is using some other let's say other versions of Java, or they do not have certain Java files in them, they will be facing problems over there. So we need they will be blaming the developers team that yeah, they haven't created the developed the app properly, and developer will say we have developed, you are lacking something. So operations team is lacking behind some factors. So we need someone to bridge between them. So we're having this DevOps. DevOps are the someone who are like who can manage both developers and operation teams. Okay. So here the DevOps arises. So what are the available products under the Azure DevOps? We have Azure DevOps Services, GitHub and GitHub Actions. Many of us know about GitHub. We have already used them, and I will come to them in the next slide. And Azure DevTest Labs. Right. Now, with Azure DevOps Services, development collaboration tools, including Kanban boards and automated cloud-based loading tests. But I will explain what this means. So Azure DevOps Services is a collection of services that address every stage of software development's lifecycle. Okay. So in Azure DevOps, we have Azure DevOps Services just like GitHub. If you have used GitHub, then it will be easy for you to understand Azure DevOps Services. Like it is like GitHub, it is having Azure Repos. It is a centralized source code repository. It is having Azure boards, which is an Azure project management suite that includes Kanban boards, which I have mentioned here. And it is also having Azure pipelines, which is a continuous integration and continuous development, that is CI/CD pipeline automation tool. It is having everything as GitHub has to offer. So, and what is GitHub? GitHub is a code repository for open source software, which is built on Git, which is a version control system. So it is a software development hosting with version controls, source code management, and bug or task management. Okay. So what is GitHub Actions? GitHub Actions enables workflow automation with triggers for many lifecycle events. One such example would be automating the CI/CD toolchain. So what Azure pipeline has to offer, like what Azure DevOps pipeline is same as GitHub Actions. Okay. So which we use for CI/CD toolchains. Now it comes if we are having both services like Azure DevOps services and GitHub, which provide us with the same services. Then you must arise. Then a question must arise in your mind. Then when to choose which service? Okay, if they both are similar, if they both provide us with the pipelines and repositories, boards, etc., then when to choose which service? See, here comes the scenario of a general practice that we use. Okay. I'll give you an example. Like in Python, we use underscore before a variable to make it private. Okay, it is not a hard-coded rule by the Python, or the compiler understands it that the variable is having underscore means it is a private variable. It is what I will say practice that the developers use. Okay, so we use it to make we'll declare that yeah, it is a private variable, so it should not be modified in like or something like that. We shouldn't use the try to modify the private variables. That's the thing. So similarly, we use GitHub, which is used for open source projects. Okay, we all know that GitHub is used for those open source projects. If we want our source codes to be private, we use Azure DevOps and its services. If we want to build a private source code models, then we will be using Azure DevOps. If we are working on an open source project, we will be working on GitHub. It is not hard coded rule. You can do the both in Azure DevOps services. Also, you can use the public open source projects only. But it is generally a practice. We use GitHub for open source and DevOps for private coded projects. Now comes Azure DevTest Labs. So what DevTest Labs is, it creates environments in Azure while minimizing the waste and controlling costs. What this means is, it quickly creates environments.
Akash, could you unmute yourself?
Which part I am muted?
I think you can continue from the last slide, the last part.
About Azure DevTest Labs.
Okay, I have discussed what Azure DevTest Labs is.
Can you please repeat that part?
Okay, that's not a problem. I have explained, what GitHub and DevOps is used for. Can anyone reply? Hello?
Yes, Akash, you can start from Azure DevTest Labs.
Okay. So what Azure DevTest Labs is, it helps us to quickly create environments in Azure while minimizing the waste and controlling the costs. Okay. So what it means is, it provides us testing environment when we are testing when we have developed an application or try to test the application. We can use the Azure DevTest Labs to automate the creation and management of the application. Then it comes the analyzing the decision criteria. So first thing is, do we need to automate and manage test lab creation? So I have just said now, if our aim is to automate the creation and management of the test lab environment, we'll be using Azure DevTest Labs only. So then, are we building a open source software? So again, although Azure DevOps can publish public code repositories, but as we have discussed, GitHub has been preferred for open source software only. So if we are building open source software, GitHub is the answer. Okay. Then regarding the source code management and DevOps tools, what level of granularity do you need for permissions? Regarding how sophisticated does the project management and reporting needs to be? And how tightly you need to integrate with the third-party tools? All these things, okay. You would need to see uh, GitHub, how GitHub works on it. You know that GitHub works, it is very simple, okay, it doesn't have any complex things to do. So for every granularity and sophisticated things and need tightly and need to integrate your third-party tools, then you must use DevOps services. Like Azure is providing it means it is having that much of capability. Okay. So for granular set of services, we will be using DevOps. GitHub is only used for open source software. It is a simple thing. Okay. Next comes Azure Tools for managing and configuring Azure environment. So there are two broad categories of management tools. Okay, visual tools and code-based tools. Visual tools provide full visually friendly access to all the functionality of Azure. However, visual tools might be less useful when you're trying to set up large deployment of resources with interdependencies and configuration options. When you're attempting to quickly set up and configure Azure resources, a code-based tool is actually better choice. Okay. Under this, we are having several options like we are having Azure Portal, Azure Mobile App, Azure PowerShell, Azure CLI, and ARM templates. Okay. So let's see all of this. First comes Azure Portal. Azure Portal is a web-based user interface. You can access virtually every feature of Azure over there. As soon as you enter the URL for Azure Portal, you will be using the Azure Portal itself. Okay. Then comes Azure Mobile App. The Azure Mobile App provides the iOS and Android access to your Azure resources when you are away from your computer. So you can, I don't think you can create a virtual machines or something like you can create resources over there, but you can, except for creation, every other services you can manage through your mobile app, Azure Mobile App. Okay. Then comes Azure PowerShell. It is a shell with which developers and DevOps and IT professionals can execute commands. Capturing the commands in a command script makes the process repeatable and automable. I will explain all these things. Then comes Azure CLI, that is a command line interface, that is an executable program with which developer, DevOps professional or IT professional can execute commands in the bash shell. And then comes the ARM templates. Azure Resource Manager templates. You can describe the resources you want to use in a declarative JSON format and can be deployed without having to write any comments. Then you'll understand this better while you analyze the decision criteria. Okay. So let's analyze. The first thing is, do you need to perform one of management, administrative, or reporting actions? So management is always better with Azure command line in CLI and PowerShell. Okay. Also with the Azure Resource Manager templates, that is ARM templates, since they define the infrastructure requirements in your application for repeatable deployment, and you can keep custom scripts, certain operations that you need to perform multiple times. Okay. So you can copy paste that codes. You just need to copy paste the codes and perform the task. So for but for one-off scenarios, okay, but for one-off scenarios, you may prefer more agile tools like the Azure Portal. But if you're beginning with cloud, then Azure Portal is the best solution for you. So for administrative and reporting purpose, you can use the Azure Portal. Then do you need a way to repeatedly set up one or more resources and ensure that all the dependencies are created in the proper order? Here you can use ARM templates, as here you define all your applications infrastructure requirements for a repeatable deployment. It is not that only ARM templates can do that for you. It is also possible to use CLI or PowerShell to set up the resources for a deployment. But the thing is, in ARM there is a validation step. Okay, after you mention that these things I require in my service, then there will be a validation step that you have entered all the required things, you have filled the required things correctly, and based on that, it will be creating the dependency. But such thing that there is no validation step while you use CLI or PowerShell. As you enter the commands, then it will be creating the dependencies in order. But if the script encounters an error at certain point, then it will be very difficult to roll back to the dependency resource and start afresh. Okay. So here ARM templates is a great thing you can use. Then the third thing is, when you are scripting, do you come from a Windows administration or the Linux administration background? So most of us, you must be knowing that PowerShell belongs to that our Windows only, and Bash shell belongs to the Linux. Okay. So if we are coming from a Windows administration background, you will be preferring PowerShell, whereas if you come from Linux administration background, you will be preferring Azure CLI. It is in practice. Okay, either tool can be used to perform most of the tasks. You can do many tasks. You can do same tasks with both the cells, but is in practice which tool you are more comfortable in. Okay, this is the thing only. So, next thing is Azure Monitoring Services for insights and visibility. So IoT. So we are having three things in that. Like I am having some problems with the PPT. Let's leave it. So I'll be explaining these things. We are having three services under this. We are having Azure Advisor, Azure Monitor, and Azure Services. Okay. So what Azure Advisor is? It analyzes deployed Azure resources and make recommendations based on best practices to optimize the Azure deployments. Okay. So here you can see this is the Advisor screen.
वहाँ जहाँ पे ब्रश करती हूँ
जहाँ पे मैं रखा हूँ
Excuse me. If you have any doubts, you can ask. Otherwise, please mute yourself. Yes, continue, Akash.
Yeah, okay. So in background, okay, Azure Advisor is doing automatic analysis of all the resources you have created, and from that particular analysis, it will create a report and give it to us. So let's say that there is a common practice between the cloud users that there should be at least 2 VM created with one load balancer for high availability. You can see like for this is a let's say this is a picture of my advisor. I'm having certain VMs and certain services using, and it is showing me that I'm having 4 recommendations for high availability, 31 recommendations to implement security, and my performance is well and good. I don't need any recommendations or any optimization to it. There are 3 recommendations by which I can reduce cost, and there are 1 recommendation with which my operational excellence can increase. Okay. So, like I said, let's say there is certain rule that if you are creating 2 virtual machines with 1 load balancer, you'll be getting better high availability, and that guy like that. So if you haven't created any firewall or any NSGs, it will be showing recommendations to implement those security purpose. Okay. So that is used to optimize and reduce your overall Azure spending. Like say, if I'm having a virtual machine with very high specifications, but it is not getting used at all, then and that capacity, it will recommend me to scale down to save the cost. Okay, here if I see that it is having the recommendation, it might show me the recommendation that you need to scale down the application you are not using to that extent. So it is a waste of money. You can scale down to it. So we actually need these kinds of recommendations if we are using cloud. That will be a great. Like if you are not using virtual machines, it will be going on and will be facing a great loss. Okay. So every service which is hosted needs to be monitored also. So let's say there is a virtual machines. I need to know how much RAM or of virtual machine is being used. Okay, how much capacity of processor I used, and reaching a particular RAM or processor, let's say 80% processor is used, then I need to raise an alert that I need to horizontally or vertically scale my web app. That what this means is if I'm saying horizontally means I need to increase the number of my VMs, or I can vertically means I can increase the RAM or processor or something like that of the particular virtual machine. So here we need Azure Monitor, okay, which can monitor the availability and performance of the application, ensuring that the virtual machine is perfectly fine. All the resources are constantly generating logs. Application Insights captures the telemetry info from where traffic is. Or sorry, I haven't showed you that picture of Azure Monitor. Okay, this is the very good explanation. Like here in the first tab, that is we are having applications, operating systems, resources, subscriptions. Here is Azure tenant, and here are some certain custom sources. They'll be creating logs and metrics inside our database, and from using those data, we can create application insights. Okay, that capture the telemetry info from the traffic is originating, and some user submitting multiple requests, or where the app is bottlenecking or something like that. It will show everything in our insights. We can visualize the things like using dashboards or using Power BI. We can visualize what the metrics looks like. We can use analysis. We can use analysis on those data. We can respond. This respond means we can raise alerts. Like I said, when the 80% of my virtual machine is used, I need to create alerts. Or here we can also see we can also auto scale those things. Okay, or we can integrate those data in our logic apps and also use an API endpoints like that. Or go back. Then comes the Azure Health Service. So as let's say um, we're having Azure data centers which are managed by the Microsoft, but possibly that there are some issue in the data center. Okay, because from the reason the data center is down or having some maintenance, or maybe on a planned date or something like it is having maintenance, then these infos can be found on the Azure services. Okay, if there is any impact to the service which we provisioned, maybe we created a storage account in West India, and let's say that this there crash. So these things we can see in Azure services. Okay, let's see at Azure service how services look like. So let's see. So here is a screen that shows us the Azure service. Okay. So here are the issues. Like it will show us that what is the issue. Okay, we are having certain issue in our storage system or allocation failures in the virtual machines, and here it will show in which region we are facing this problem and what is the stat time of this problem. Here it will be showing the list of the problems, and here you see in the red box we can see what is the impact of it on our customers. Okay, where customers, it is showing that customers may have experienced difficulties connected to resources hosted in Central India. Whichever the resources hosted in Central India, the customers will not be able to access that. Okay, so it is very helpful solution. So if there is any impact to any services which we provision, maybe we created storage account in slash. So this thing we can see it Azure services. So Microsoft is completely transparent about it, and it will show us all the downtimes. Now let us see what are the. Let's analyze the decision criteria. Okay. So first thing is, do you need to analyze how you are using Azure to reduce cost, improve resilience, or harden your security? Okay. So we will be using Azure Advisor here. Okay, I'll tell you why. But because when we are looking for an analysis of your deployed resources, Azure Advisor analyzes your resources and provides suggestions on how to optimize for security, performance, cost based on experts, and the best practices. So Azure Advisor will be the best option. And, second thing is, do you need to monitor Azure services for your usage of Azure? Then if you want to monitor Azure itself, like you want to monitor Azure, then especially the services and the regions you depend, you can choose Azure services. If you want to monitor Azure, it is working well or not, you can use Azure services. As I explained, it will show us everything what problems it is facing. So you can see that the current status of the Azure services you rely on and upcoming planned outages. You can see everything over there. But if you want to monitor performance issues related to a specific virtual machines, like if you are monitoring certain virtual machine or databases or any applications, okay, you can use Azure Monitor there, okay, to create reports and notifications for how your services are performing to diagnose issues related to your Azure usage. You can, under this, you are having two scenarios. You can either use Azure services or you can use Azure Monitor. Then do you want to measure custom events alongside with usage metrics? Okay, what does this mean? So in this case, you'll be using Azure Monitor because you can use this when you want to measure custom events alongside other collected telemetry data. So custom events such as those added in the source code of your software applications could help identify and diagnose why your application is behaving in certain way. In those cases, you can use Azure Monitor. It will be a very good solution to you. Now, do you need to set up alerts for outages or when auto scaling is about to deploy new instances? So here also Azure Monitor you can use to set up alerts for key events that are related to your or your specific resources. Yeah. So these are the things only. This is the last slide, I guess. So this was all about in Azure core solutions and management tools on Azure. You just like what I explained things is you need to just know these things only. Okay. You don't need to deep dive into the things. You just need to have the idea which thing you have to do, like what services we'll be using in what scenarios. Okay. In exam, they will not be asking you what is a virtual machine, how you can do those things, what is IoT hub. They will not expect you those answers of those questions. They will be just asking scenario-based questions like, this is the situation. What services are you going to use? I think I was able to explain which service to use at which time. So that's it. Now I'll be handing this over to Amisha. She will explain the next module. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Akash. It was a really awesome session. I'm sure that most of them have learned a lot from your session. And right now we will take a 5 to 10 minutes break. And in the meanwhile, we have turned on the chats. So if you have any kind of doubts, either you can unmute yourself and ask us, otherwise you can write it in the chat box. But do maintain a proper decorum. And if you do anything wrong, then we'll be kicking you out of the meeting without any, yeah. Okay, yeah, so the chat box is on. We'll be back in 10 minutes. Okay, so sir, for it, you are asking that yesterday you filled the form and you filled my other email ID. Well, if you have written the same name, then it's okay. We can know that. Pritham, you're saying that we only have MCQ type questions. No, listen. So in the exam, you will be having MCQ type questions, MSQ type questions, fill in the blanks type questions, and true or false type questions. Like they will be giving some statements, and then you have to say whether it is yes or no. And also you will get some figure type questions like there are different Azure figures. So in the software, so they'll be giving that software image, and then you have to say select the icon which represents what it has been asked in the question. So that kind of questions will also come. And Okay, so how to apply for the exam and what are the prerequisites? Any tip regarding to excel the exam? Okay, so to apply for the exam, I had showed it in yesterday's session as well. Let me show it again. Wait a second. So I have shared a link. You can check that out. So it is basically the official documentation, and that is provided by Microsoft for this Azure 900 examination. That is Azure Fundamentals. And to apply for that, let me share my screen. Yeah, so I hope my screen is visible. So when you visit the site that I have shared in the chat box, uh, here you can see, here you can apply for the exam. So if you click this, schedule with Pearson view, you will be automatically, yeah, so you can see that you will get to a portal where you can apply for the exam. So this is one method. The other method is we'll be sharing a link that has the applied coupon. So using that also you can directly go to the page for the exam. So the exam basically costs $99 in USD dollars, and based on the coupon you can get it in lesser price. So this is the main link that I have shared right now for the examination. Okay, the prerequisites is everything that we are teaching in this workshop itself, because we are covering each and every topics. That is, there are 6 major topics that I had shown you. Let me show it again as well. Wait. So this is the overview of the whole Azure Fundamentals syllabus. So there are 6 parts, and we have already covered 3 parts right now, and we are left with 3. And today itself we'll be covering the 4th part as well, and tomorrow the rest 2 parts. So this is all that you need for the Azure 900, and I think this is sufficient for it. And also, just the theory won't be enough in my opinion. You would need to practice some questions, and we will also try to provide some good quality questions so that you can have some experience with that. Is it enough if you only follow the PPTs and Microsoft documentation? Okay. Actually, to be honest, for us it was enough just following the Microsoft documentation. And you guys also have our PPTs and also our sessions. So I think it is more than enough for you. You can easily crack with this much. And if you're interested to, explore more, then you can try to just try to apply for some, not apply, but there are some mock tests available for this exam for free. You can try to experience them as well if you want. Let me share if I'm able to get any right now. So I have shared a link. So this is one of such example. You can get many such mock tests in online. So you just have to try whether you can solve this mock test or not. You can be sure whether you are prepared. But yeah, to be honest, the Microsoft documentation is more than enough. And our workshop is like the cherry on the cake. So yeah, we are cool to go with that. Which URL are you talking about? Sujit Kumar Nayak. Validating URL and nothing more. Which one? Okay, don't worry guys, we'll be sharing a lot of resources with you tomorrow after our workshop is over, so don't worry. And the content of this certification will be updated and please download. Yeah, but even if it is updated, most probably it will be decreased but not increased. So you have nothing to lose once you know all these concepts. Okay. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure whether it will be anything new, but most probably according to the past experiences, they whenever they update, they try to decrease or the syllabus or something like that. Maybe Akash or Amisha can add on to this, like what they are going to update on October 25.
They might change the percentage weightage of different sections too. So that is one thing they can do.
Yeah, that is also true because as of now that we can see that the percentage is more towards the first module, second module, like that. But during exam, we will face that that's not always true. You may get more questions from any module, so you have to be acquainted with all the modules equally. And yeah, of course, you can put stress on the first, second, and fifth module, but all the modules are important. But yeah, don't worry, we will be sharing a lot of resources once our workshop is over. So stay tuned till tomorrow. And I guess, Amisha, we can start, resume the session. That is your session.
Yes, Bravish. Let me just present my screen.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, is my screen visible?
Yes, Didi.
Okay, chalo, let's get started. So I am Amisha Jaiswal and I'll be covering today the general security and network security features Okay, so in this part of the session, we are going to dive into the understanding security threats in Azure. We are going to look at how to look at security recommendations and how to detect and respond to events using security incident and event management, and even how to host our virtual machines on dedicated hosts. Chalo, so let's okay. So what's Azure Security Center? Azure Security Center is a monitoring service that provides visibility of your security posture across all of your services. Both on Azure and on premises, the team security posture refers to cyber security policies and controls, as well as how well you will predict, prevent, and respond to security threats. Azure Security Center gives you one place to check security settings, identify potential security weakness, and analyze inbound attacks and more. You can automatically apply any required security settings to new resources when they are created. Azure Security Center can detect potential inbound attacks so you can investigate them further. Now, understanding security posture. We can use Security Center to get detailed analysis of different
Excuse
components
me,
in its
Amisha.
environment. Yeah,
Amisha,
yes, Bravish?
are you doing the slideshow right now or not?
Uh,
Because you are stuck with the first slide.
oh, okay. Yes, I was actually. Okay. I'll have to check then.
It's
Okay,
okay.
let's
No
stop.
worries.
Okay. So, was I audible, Bravish?
Yes, you are audible, and now your screen is also perfectly visible.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we discussed Azure Security Center just now. Okay, let me cover it again. So, Azure Security Center is a monitoring service that provides visibility of your security posture across all of your services, both on Azure and on premises. The term security posture refers to cybersecurity policies and controls, as well as how well you can predict, prevent, and respond to security threats. Azure Security Center gives you one place to check security settings, identify potential security weakness, analyze inbound attacks, and more. You can automatically apply any required security settings to new resources when they are created. It can detect potential inbound attacks so you can investigate them further. Understanding security posture, we can use Security Center to get a detailed analysis of different components in its environment. Because the company's resources are analyzed against the security controls of any government's policies it has assigned, it can view its overall regulatory compliance, from a security perspective, all from one place. Now, so as you can see in the image below, Azure Security Center, so it has various elements and we'll discuss them now. Payment card industries data security standard, known as PCI DSS, is a report that shows the company has resources that it needs to remediate. Resource security hygiene section. In this section, we can see the health of its resources from a security perspective. To help prioritize remediation actions, and recommendations are characterized as low, medium, and high. We can also see in the image the overall secure score that we'll be discussing right now. Now, what's a secure score? Secure score is a measurement of an organization's security posture. Secure score is based on security controls or groups of related security recommendations. Your score is based on the percentage of security controls that you satisfy. The more security controls you satisfy, the higher the score you receive. Your score improves when you remediate all of the recommendations for a single resource within a control. You can see how it shows the score is 57% or 34 out of 60 points. Secure Score helps you to report on the current state of your organization security posture, improve your security posture by providing discoverability, visibility, guidance, and control, compare with benchmarks, and establish key performance indicators. Protect against threats. Security Center includes advanced cloud defense capabilities for VMs, network security, and file integrity. Some of these capabilities are just-in-time VM access, adaptive application controls, adaptive network hardening, and adaptive monitoring. Let's see what are these. Just-in-time VM access, it's the access that blocks traffic by default to specific network ports of VMs, but allow traffic for a specific time when an admin requests or approves it. Adaptive application controls. In the background, Security Center uses machine learning to look at the processes running on a VM. It creates exception rules for each resource group that holds the VMs, provide recommendations. This process provides alerts that inform the company about the unauthorized applications that are running on its VMs. Adaptive networking hardening. Security Center can monitor the internet traffic patterns of the VMs and compare those patterns with the company's current network security group settings. From there, Security Center can make recommendations about whether the NSGs should be locked down further and provide remediation steps. File integrity monitoring. With this, we can configure the monitoring of changes to important files on both Windows and Linux, registry settings, applications, and other aspects that might indicate a security attack. Respond to security alerts. Security Center can be used to get centralized view of all its security alerts. From there, the company can dismiss false alerts, investigate them further, remediate alerts manually, or use an automated response with a workflow automation. Workflow automation uses Azure Logic Apps and Security Center connectors. The Logic Apps can be triggered by threat detection alert or by a Security Center recommendation filtered by name or by severity. You can then configure the Logic app to run an action such as sending an email or posting a message to Microsoft Teams channel. Detect and respond to security threats by using Azure Sentinel. Security management on a large scale can benefit from a dedicated security information and event management system. A SIEM system, which is
Okay, guys, I think Amisha is having some network issues. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
sorry guys, I think there were some network issues.
Amisha, you are not audible.
Yes, I guess there's some issue with my presentation. Could Akash or you
Yeah.
anyone just press the screen?
Yes, yes, we are.
Okay, so what was last audible? Which slide?
Just wait for a second.
Okay, so shall we start?
Yeah, we can start.
Okay, sorry guys for the inconvenience. Okay, so detect. Okay, so I'll cover from Azure Sentinel capabilities. So Azure Sentinel enables you to collect cloud data at scale. Collect data across all users' devices, applications, infrastructure, both on premises and from multiple clouds. Detect previously undetected threats. Minimize false positives by using Microsoft's comprehensive analytics and threat intelligence. Investigate threats with artificial intelligence. So examine suspicious activities at scale, tapping into years of cybersecurity experience from Microsoft. Respond to incidents, use built-in orchestration and automation of common tasks. Akash, could you? Thank you. Detect threats. The user needs to be notified when something suspicious occurs. It decides to use both built-in analytics and custom rules to detect threats. Built-in analytics use templates designed by Microsoft's team of security experts and analysts based on known common attacks vectors and escalation chains for suspicious activity. These templates can be customized and searched across the environment for any activity that looks suspicious. Some templates use machine learning behavior analytics that are based on Microsoft proprietary algorithms. Custom analytics are rules that you create to search for specific criteria within your environment. You can preview the number of results that the query would generate and set a schedule for a query to run. You can also set an alert threshold. Investigate and respond. When Azure Sentinel detects suspicious events, the company can investigate specific alerts or incidents. With the investigation graph, the company can review information from entities directly connected to the alert and see common exploration queries to help guide the investigation. The company will also use Azure Monitor workbooks to automate responses to threat. Let's take an example. It can set an alert that looks for malicious IP addresses that access the network and create a workbook that does the following step. Like when the alert is triggered, open a ticket in the IT ticketing system. Send a message to the security operations channel in Microsoft Teams or Slack to make sure the security analysts are aware of the incident. Send off all of the information in the alert to the senior network admin and to the security admin. The email message includes two user options, block or ignore. When an admin chooses block, the IP address is blocked in the firewall and the user is disabled in Azure Active Directory. When an admin chooses ignore, the alert is closed in Azure Sentinel and the incident is closed in the IT ticketing system. The workbook continues to run after it receives a response from the admins. Workbooks can be run manually or automatically when a rule triggers an alert. Store and manage secrets by using Azure Key Vault. Now, this is an important topic. Azure Key Vault is a centralized cloud service for storing an application's secret in a single central location. It provides secure access to sensitive information by providing access control and logging capabilities. What can Azure Key Vault do? So it can help you manage secrets. You can use Key Vault to securely store tightly controlled access to tokens, passwords, certificates, API keys, and other secrets. Manage encryption keys. You can use Key Vault as a key management solution. Key Vault makes it easier to create and control the encryption keys that are used to encrypt your data. Manage SSL and TLS certificates. Key Vault enables you to provision, manage, and deploy your public and private secure socket layer, transport layer security certificates for both your Azure resources and your internal resources. Store secrets backed by hardware security modules. These secrets and keys can be protected either by software or by FIP's 142 Level 2 validated HSMs. The benefits of using Key Vault include centralized application secrets. Centralizing the storage of your application secrets enables you to control their distribution and reduces the chances that secrets are accidentally leaked. Securely stored secrets and keys. Azure uses industry standard algorithms, key lengths, and HSMs. Access to Key Vault requires proper authentication and authorization. Access monitoring and access control. By using Key Vault, you can monitor and control to your application secret. Simplified administration and application secret. Key Vault makes it easier to enroll and renew certificates from public certificate authorities. You can also scale up and replicate content within regions and use standard certificate management tools. Integration with other Azure services. You can integrate Key Vault with Azure with storage accounts, container registries, event hubs, and many more Azure services. These services can then securely reference the secrets stored in. Here you can see an example to the Key Vault. Okay, so host your Azure virtual machines on dedicated physical servers by using Azure Dedicated Host. On Azure, virtual machines run on shared hardware that Microsoft manages. Although the underlying hardware is shared, your VM workloads are isolated from workloads that other Azure customers run. Some organizations must follow regulatory compliance that requires them to be only customer using the physical machine that hosts their virtual machines. Azure Dedicated Host provides dedicated physical servers to host your Azure VMs for Windows and Linux. Here's a diagram that shows VMs relate to dedicated host and host groups. A dedicated host is mapped to a physical server in an Azure data center. A host group is a collection of data hosts. As you can see, the dedicated host and the virtual machines connected in a form to form host groups. Akash, could you change the slide?
Yeah, I have changed already. Is it not visible?
Okay. Thank you. What are the benefits of Azure Dedicated Host? Azure Dedicated Host gives you the visibility into and control over the server infrastructure that's running your Azure VMs. Helps address compliance requirements by deploying your workloads on an isolated server. Lets you choose the number of processors, server capabilities, VM series, and VM sizes within the same host. After a dedicated host is provisioned, Azure assigns it to the physical server in Microsoft's cloud data center. Availability considerations for dedicated host. For high availability, you can provision multiple hosts in a host group and deploy your VMs across this group. VMs on dedicated hosts can also take advantage of maintenance control. This feature enables you to control when regular maintenance updates occur within a 35-day rolling window. So there's a 35-day rolling window. Pricing considerations, you are charged per dedicated host. Independent of how many VMs you deploy it, the host price is based on the VM's family, type, and region. Software licensing, storage, and network usage are billed separately from the host and the VMs. Secure network connectivity on Azure. What is defense in depth? Running on premises means that the company is responsible for all aspects of security, from physical access to buildings, all the way down to how data travels in and out of the network. The company wants to know how its current defense in depth strategy compares to running in the cloud. The objective of defense in depth is to protect information and protect it from being stolen by those who aren't authorized to access it. A defense in depth strategy uses a series of mechanisms to slow the advance of an attack that aims at acquiring unauthorized access to data. Okay, so now we'll discuss the layers of defense in depth. You can visualize defense in depth as a set of layers with the data to be secured at the center. Each layer provides protection so that if one layer is breached, a subsequent layer is already in place to prevent further exposure. This approach removes reliance on any single layer of protection. It shows down an attack and provides alert telemetry that security teams can act upon, either automatically or manually. So there are the physical roles of each layer. Now let's just discuss that. The physical security layer is the first line of defense to protect computing hardware in the data center. Second comes identity and access. Identity and access layer controls access to infrastructure and change control. Third is the perimeter. The perimeter layer uses distributed denial of service, also known as DDoS protection, to filter large scale attacks before they can use a denial of service for users. The network layer limits communication between the resources through segmentation and access control. The compute layer secures access to virtual machines. The application layer helps you ensure the applications are secure and free of security vulnerabilities. The data layer controls access to business and customer data that you need to protect. Azure provides security tools and features at every level of the defense in depth concept. Let's take a closer look at each layer. So the first one is physical security. Physically securing access to buildings and controlling access to computing hardware within the data center are the first line of defense. With physical security, the intent is to provide physical safeguards against access to assets. These safeguards ensure that the other layers can't be passed and loss or theft is handled appropriately. Microsoft uses various physical security mechanisms in its cloud data centers. Identity and access. At this layer, it's important to control access to infrastructure and change control. Use single sign on and multi factor authentication. audit events, and changes. The identity and access is all about ensuring that the identities are secure, access is granted only to what's needed, and sign-in events and changes are logged. Perimeter. At this layer, it's important to use DDoS protection to filter large-scale attacks before they can affect the availability of a system for users. Use perimeter firewalls to identify and alert on malicious attacks against your network. At the network perimeter, it's about protecting from network-based attacks against your resources. Identifying these attacks, eliminating their impact, and alerting you when they happen are important ways to keep your network secure. Next is network. At this layer, it's important to limit communication between resources, deny by default, restrict inbound internet access, and limit outbound access where appropriate. Implement secure connectivity to on-premises networks. At this layer, the focus is on limiting the network connectivity across resources to allow only what's required. By limiting this communication, you can reduce the risk of an attack spreading to other systems in your network. Compute. At this layer, it's important to secure access to virtual machines, implement endpoint protection on devices, keep system patched and current. Malware, unpatched systems, and improperly secured systems open your environment to attacks. The focus in this layer is on making sure that your compute resources are secure and that you have the proper controls in place to minimize security issues. Application layer, it's important to ensure the applications are secure and free of vulnerabilities. Store sensitive application secrets in a secure storage medium. Make security a design requirement for all the application deployment. Integrating security into the application deployment lifecycle helps to reduce the number of vulnerabilities introduced in code. Every development team should ensure that its applications are secure by default. Last is data. In almost all cases, attackers are after data, stored in a database, stored in a on disk inside virtual machines, stored in software as a service applications such as Office 365, managed through cloud storage. Those who store and control access to data are responsible for ensuring that it's properly secured. Often regulatory requirements dictate the controls and process that must be in place to ensure the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the data. All these layers and their usage is important, guys. Security posture. Your security posture is your organization's ability to protect from and respond to security threats. The common principles used to define a security posture are confidentiality, integrity, and availability, known collectively as CIA. Confidentiality, the principle of least privilege, means restricting access to information only to individuals explicitly granted access at only the level that they need to perform their work. This information includes protection of user passwords, email content, and access levels to applications and underlying infrastructure. Integrity, prevent unauthorized changes to information at rest when it is stored and in transit when it's being transferred from one place to another. A common approach used in data transmission is for the sender to create a unique fingerprint of the data by using one-way hashing algorithm. The hash is sent to the receiver along with the data. The receiver recalculates the data's hash and compares it to the original to ensure that the data wasn't lost or modified in the transit. Availability ensures that services are functioning and can be accessed only by the authorized users. Denial of service attacks are designed to degrade the availability of a system, affecting its users. Protecting virtual networks by using Azure Firewall. Now, what is Azure Firewall? Azure Firewall is a managed cloud-based network security service that helps you protect resources in your Azure virtual networks. A virtual network is similar to a traditional network that you'd operate in your own data center. It's fundamental building block for your private network that enables virtual machines and other compute resources to securely communicate with each other, the internet and on-premises networks. Azure Firewall is a stateful firewall. A stateful firewall analyzes the compute context of a network connection, not just an individual packet of network traffic. Azure Firewall features high availability and unrestricted cloud scalability. It provides a central location to create, enforce, and log application and network connectivity policies across subscriptions and virtual networks. It uses a static public IP address for your virtual network resources, which outside firewalls to identity traffic coming from your virtual network. The service is integrated with Azure Monitor to enable logging and analytics. Azure Firewall provides many features, including built-in high availability, unrestricted cloud scalability, inbound and outbound filtering rules, inbound destination network, address translation support, and Azure monitoring logging. You typically deploy Azure Firewall on a central virtual network to control general network access. With Azure Firewall, you can configure application rules that define fully qualified domain names that can be accessed from a subnet, network rules that define secure address protocol, destination port, and destination address, network address translation rules that define destination IP addresses and ports to translate inbound requests. Azure Application Gateway also provides a firewall that's called the Web Application Firewall. WAF provides centralized inbound protection for your web applications against common exploits and vulnerabilities. Azure Front Door and Contained Delivery Network also provides WAF services. Now coming to what are DDoS attacks that we have been discussing so far. A distributed denial of service is DDoS. So a distributed denial of service attack attempts to overwhelm and exhaust an application's resources, making the application slow or unresponsive to legitimate users. DDoS attacks can target any resource that's publicly reachable through the internet, including websites. What is Azure DDoS protection? Azure DDoS protection helps protect your Azure resources from DDoS attacks. When you combine DDoS protection with recommended application design practices, you help provide a defense against your DDoS attacks. DDoS protection uses the scale and elasticity of Microsoft's global network to bring DDoS mitigation capacity to every Azure region. The DDoS protection service helps protect your Azure applications by analyzing and discarding DDoS traffic at the Azure network edge before it can affect your service availability. So here the diagram shows network traffic flowing into Azure from both customers and attackers, how it's working, how the Azure DDoS protection is working between the attacker and the application. DDoS protection identifies the attacker's attempt to overwhelm the network and blocks further traffic from them, ensuring that the traffic never reaches the Azure resources. Legitimate traffic from customers still flows into the Azure without any interruption of service. DDoS protection can also help you manage your cloud consumption when you run on premises. You have a fixed number of compute resources, but in the cloud, elastic computing means that you can automatically scale out your deployment to meet demand. DDoS protection standard helps ensure that the network load you process reflects customer usage. You can also receive credit for any costs accrued for scaled out resources during a DDoS attack. What service tiers are available to DDoS protection? Now, DDoS protection provides three service tiers. First is basic. The basic service tier is automatically enabled for free as a part of Azure subscription. Always on traffic monitoring and real-time mitigation of common network level attacks provides the same defense that Microsoft's online services use. The basic service tier ensures that Azure infrastructure itself is not affected during a large-scale DDoS attack. Second is standard tier. So the standard tier provides additional mitigation capabilities that are tuned specifically to Azure Virtual Network Resource. DDoS protection standard is relatively easy to enable and requires no changes to your applications. The standard tier provides always on traffic monitoring that and real-time mitigation of common network level attacks. It provides the same defenses that Microsoft's online services are. What kinds of attacks can DDoS protection help prevent? The standard service tier can help prevent volumetric attacks, protocol attacks, resource layer attacks. So, volumetric attacks. The goal of this attack is to flood the network layer with a substantial amount of seemingly legitimate traffic. Protocols attack. These attacks render a target inaccessible by exploiting a weakness in the layer 3 and layer 4 protocol stack. Resource layer. This attack targets web application packets to disrupt the transmission of data between hosts. You need a web application firewall to protect against L7 attacks. DDoS protection standard protects the WAF from volumetric and protocol attacks. What are network security groups? A network security group enables you to filter network traffic to and from the Azure resources within an Azure virtual network. You can think of NSGs like an internet firewall. An NSG can control multiple inbound and outbound security rules that enable you to filter traffic to and from resources by source and destination IP address, port, and protocol. Now, how do I specify NSG rules? A network security group can contain as many rules as you need within Azure subscription limits. Each rule specifies properties. When you create a network security group, Azure creates a series of default rules to provide a baseline level of security. You can't remove the default rules, but you can override them by creating new rules with higher priorities. A network security group can contain as many rules as you need within Azure subscription limits. Each rule specifies these properties, which are listed below. Now, when you create a network security group, Azure creates a series of default rules to provide a baseline level of security. You can't remove the default rules, but you can override them by creating a new set of rules with higher priorities. The properties are name, priority, source or destination, protocol, direction, port range, and action. How to combine Azure services to create a complete network security solution. The perimeter layer is about protecting your organization's resources from network-based attacks. Identifying these attacks, alerting the appropriate security teams, and eliminating their impact are important to keeping your network secure. To do this, use Azure DDoS protection to filter large-scale attacks before they can cause a denial of service for users. Use perimeter firewalls with Azure Firewall to identify and alert on malicious attacks against your network. Secure the network layer. At this layer, the focus is on limiting network connectivity across all your resources to allow only what's required. Segment your resources and use network level controls to restrict communications to only what's needed. By restricting connectivity, you reduce the risk of of lateral movement throughout your network from an attack. How to combine some recommended practices to secure the network layer. Limit communication between resources by segmenting your network and configuring access controls. Deny by default, restrict inbound internet access and limit outbound where appropriate. Implement secure connectivity to on-premises network. And number 3 is combine services. Now you can combine Azure networking and security services to manage your network security and provide increased layer protection. Here are two ways you can combine services. So first one is network security groups and Azure Firewall. Azure Firewall complements the functionality of network security groups. Together, they provide better defense in depth network security. Network security groups provide distributed network layer traffic filtering to limit traffic to resources within virtual networks in each subscription. Azure Firewall is a fully stateful, centralized network firewall as a service. It provides network level and application level protection across different subscriptions and virtual networks. Azure Application Gateway Web Application Firewall and Azure Firewall is the another way. So Web Application Firewall is a feature of Azure Application Gateway that provides your web applications with centralized inbound protection against common exploits and vulnerabilities. Azure Firewall provides inbound protection for non-HTTP protocol, outbound network level protection for all the ports and protocols, and application level protection for unbound HTTPs. Combining them provides more layers of protection. So thank you. I know I had a lot of network issues, but I hope you understood at least bit of it. So yes. Now you can ask any questions. I think we can open the chat box.
Thank you, Amisha. It was really awesome. So, okay, the chat box has been enabled. So if you have any doubts, you can ask. Okay, guys, so we'll be sharing the feedback form right now. You have to fill it out so that you can receive the benefits of this workshop, that is the certificate of participation and the coupon link. So give me a second. So everyone, fill that feedback form that I have sent in the meeting chat so that we can track your email IDs and send you the certificate of participations after 3 days of attendance. Okay, so Arshdeep, you're asking, can you once again summarize what are the 3 types of service tiers? Amisha, can you explain that to him? Try to copy paste the link in the new tab. Sir, try to copy the link and then paste it in a new tab. Okay, those who are facing the problem with the link, I'm sharing the QR code so that you can scan that. Yes, those who have filled the form, they can leave the meeting.
No, Harshdeep, there are only two service tiers. Okay, basic and the standard one.
Everyone who have filled the form, they can leave the meeting and join back tomorrow for the third and last day of this event. And we shall be providing a lot of resources and also discuss some important questions tomorrow.